What inspired you to become a representative?
Well, I had worked, I had been a volunteer with our City Planning Commission and Zoning Board in Catoosa. And I had volunteered my services there for about 10 years. And the seat where I live in a little town called Catoosa came open. And the community has part of Tulsa, part of Verdigris, and part of Catoosa. And we'd never had a representative from that area before, and so a lot of the townspeople had asked me. They asked me if I was interested in running, and they felt like they really needed somebody from our area to be a state representative. So I agreed to run. I've always been, just kind of as background, I'm a lawyer, so I've been to law school, and I grew up. My major in college was political science. So I've always been very interested in the political process. But when part of your community comes and you know endorses you and asks you to run, that was strong. That was very powerful to me, and so that's why I decided to run for state representative.
I just want to know what your goals are for the rest of the legislative session.
This session, I've got a bill that's now in the Senate. It's House Bill 2030.
Mm-hmm.
It would require high school students to take the naturalization, history, civics portion of the naturalization test that is given to people coming from other countries that are not U.S. citizens to become citizens. And I just felt like looking at some of the events that have happened, whether it's the protests or riots that have occurred in Seattle or in Portland, and then we saw in later after I filed the bill, actually in January, we saw what happened in Washington D.C. And there's just been, our country is just tearing itself apart. And whether you like a historic figure or you don't like a historic figure, the way to address your grievances is not to just go down and haphazardly tear down statues or riot in buildings or burn things. The way to address these grievances is through our political process. And I just don't feel like the people that are behaving this way really understand that there are ways within our laws to address these issues. So that bill was actually brought to me by a constituent. He said, he came to me with this idea, and it's so. The more I have become involved with that process, the more excited about that legislation I've become.
You said it will lead to a more engaged and informed electorate in the future. So like, can you like talk about what this more about what this bill contains?
Well, it's really very simple. It encourages a more robust study of documents like the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, and the Federalist Papers. And the Federalist Papers are simply papers that were written by Madison and Hamilton and another, our first Supreme Court Justice, John Jay, that explain how the Constitution, how the framers intended it to be interpreted. So it's kind of like having an explanation of a very broad document, and it kind of puts a little bit of meat on the bones, so to speak. It encourages that, but it also, by requiring the test to graduate from high school, it will lead to a more thorough understanding of our nation and our history. Millennials, and I don't think you really fit into that category of being a millennial, but there've been there's some polling conducted, and millennials, actually only about 30% of millennials believe that it is important in the United States to maintain our system of democracy. However, if you ask that question of the World War II era people, you know, the people that fought or were born during World War II, 75% of them would say it's vital to maintain democracy. So if you look at what's going on in our country, it seems like we have the people that may know the least about our country yelling the loudest for a change in our political system. And democracy is a beautiful thing. You can hold on to democracy as long as you have democracy. But then when you change to a monarchy or a communist regime, then your democracy ceases to exist, and it would be very, very difficult to regain that. So I just don't think people have an appreciation of how our system works and the beauty of our system.